Hey guys, it's Michael Kummer here. In today's video I want to show you the top non-toxic household and personal care products that we use in the Kummer household. And by non-toxic I mean products that don't contain endocrine-disrupting chemicals such as estrogenics or fake estrogens, neurotoxins and other things. But before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel and you click on the little alert button so you get notified when I publish more videos like this. Now, when I say endocrine-disrupting chemicals and neurotoxins, I specifically mean phthalates, parabens, BP and 4-MBC, aluminum, fluoride, BPA and BPS, triclosan and APEs, and some of the other common household chemicals. Now, if most of those names don't mean anything to you, don't worry. I'm not going to go into too much detail here in this video, but I have a dedicated blog post that talks specifically about all these and other environmental toxins, why they are bad for us and how they impact our health, our ability to lose fat or remain lean, our fertility, our sperm quality, and many other things. So if you're interested in learning more about these and why those chemicals are so bad for our health, I highly recommend you check out my blog post. I'm going to link it down in the description and probably somewhere up here as a video card, so check that out if you want to learn more. Specifically in this video, I want to talk about the products that we use that don't contain any of those chemicals and how we have approached replacing some of the products we had in the past with non-toxic versions. The other thing I want to mention is that I have a list of all of these products on my blog. So if you go to michaelkummer.com/shop, then you'll find a list of all of our favorite products, including the ones that I mentioned today in this video, with links to where you can buy them. So don't worry if you don't catch, maybe the brand or the type of product, and to be quite honest, I don't know every single brand from the top of my head either, but rest assured, I have all of that information on my blog and I'm going to try to mention as much as possible down in the description as well. The first thing I want to talk about in the first product category is water filtration, because the drinking water in the United States is not very good. In fact, in most countries it's not very good. And the reason for that is that water treatment facilities are only obligated to remove pathogens that can make you sick immediately, like bacteria and viruses. They are under no obligation to remove other toxins, such as birth control hormones, for example. So, everyone who's on birth control or on an oral contraceptive and pees, some of those hormones get via the urine into the sewage system, and from there they get recycled and put back into our drinking water. And I checked with the drinking water treatment plant that is responsible for my area here, the Fulton County water treatment facility basically, and they do not test for or remove birth control hormones. And if you think about that, every time you take a sip from your tap, you're drinking a little bit of birth control hormones, regardless of if you're male, female, or if you want to have any birth control in your body. So that's one of the reasons why I highly recommend filtering your drinking water. And the easiest way to remove hormones and similar estrogenic chemicals from drinking water is to use a charcoal filter. So it can be as easy as the charcoal filter you might have on your fridge. So just drink water from there, or you can get one of those Brita pitchers or whatever that have a filter cartridge built in. The only thing to consider is if you filter the water, don't leave that water in a plastic pitcher, because from that plastic you can again get estrogenic chemicals back into the drinking water, and that makes the filtering in the first place kind of useless to a degree. So if you have a Brita filter, which is the cheapest option to filter your water, make sure you immediately pour that water out into a glass container and don't let it stand in the plastic. The other thing you can do is use an under the sink reverse osmosis filtration system. We currently have one. We've had one for many years, and we're actually just in the process of replacing it with this one from Purify Guru, because this is stainless steel. The containers are stainless steel that come in contact with the water, and all the tubing is made from silicone instead of plastic. So that's why we are replacing it right now, but pretty much any RO system will do as well. You don't need anything fancy. The most important part is charcoal filtering. And so get a filter under the sink, or in the best case scenario, a whole house filtration system that removes all of those hormones and other toxins from the water that you get exposed to in the shower, that you put into your mouth when rinsing, after brushing your teeth, etc. The next category of products are food and beverage storage containers. And this is a big one because most of us use plastic as food storage containers. We've used plastic all of our lives pretty much. And the problem is that pretty much all plastics leach endocrine disrupting chemicals, those estrogenics, into the food, even at room temperature. I mean, you probably have heard that you shouldn't heat certain plastic products in the microwave, or don't heat them generally, because that just increases that leaching activity, that transfer of chemicals from the plastic into the food or the beverage or water. But regardless, studies have shown that even at room temperature, most plastics leach chemicals into the food or into whatever they contain. And that's not a good thing. So I highly recommend replacing all plastics, getting rid of all plastics that comes in touch with food. And that's difficult if you buy certain foods that are already wrapped in plastic. I understand. And there's only so much you can do. But as far as storing your food and beverages at home, I highly recommend using either glass, stainless steel, or something else that's not plastic. And so what we do here in the Cookware household, we use a lot of glass storage containers. Like for instance, this is a storage container from Blue Hills. They come in different sizes. There are different options available. You can find all kinds of different brands on Amazon. This particular one comes with a bamboo lid. So, this is non-toxic obviously as well. We also still have some glass containers that have a plastic top, like, previous Tupperware, whatever the brand we had there. And we still use them occasionally, but when we do, we make sure that the lid, the plastic lid, does not come in contact with the food. And the food only comes in contact with the glass part, basically. So this is one option that I can highly recommend. We use the same for most of our pantry items. So this is coconut flour, for example. It's again a glass container with a wooden lid. I think it's bamboo as well. And the seal here is made out of silicone, so it's not plastic either, even though food technically doesn't or shouldn't come in contact with that seal anyway. But this is another option, and again, I'm linking all of the brands and products that we use either down below or on michaelkummer.com/shop. The other thing that we've replaced is all the Ziploc bags that we use for freezing food, etc., or for storing them, and we use these silicone versions. So there are different types here. This is a smaller one that we use for certain items, and then this one has actually a little bit of a flat bottom here that we use for soups and stocks, etc. It's leak proof, so if you slide this on, it's fully leak proof. They also have different versions, different options. Some stand like easily, so you can pour in the soup, etc. This one doesn't unless it's full. But anyway, all silicone, no plastic anymore. As far as food wrapping is concerned, we don't use any plastic wraps for obvious reasons. And we also don't use aluminum, because aluminum is a neurotoxin, and especially with salty or acidic food, that aluminum from the foil leaches into the food, and then you ingest it and it's a neurotoxin, so you don't want to have aluminum in your body. And so what we use instead is these beeswax papers. It's basically a cotton cloth that was treated with beeswax, and we use it in this case here to wrap an onion or whatever you might have, and they're reusable. Obviously, you can just rinse them off if there is food residue on them, and that's what we use in the fridge. And then for things like baking or smoking, we use butcher paper instead of aluminum, and that works really well too. Now, the other thing that we have gotten rid of is all of our plastic bottles, especially the ones that the kids used and that we used for working out. So now we have pretty much all of our bottles are from a brand called Pura, and they make stainless steel bottles with silicone, either straws or nipples or spouts or whatever. And the cool thing about Pura is not only that everything is stainless steel, and they have versions available with double walls, so they keep the insides either hot or cold for several hours. But the thing that we really like is all the tops here, or the nipples and stuff, they are replaceable and exchangeable. So you can put this one on the kids' bottle here. This is one from Isabella. They have, ones with straws, so you can interchange them as you like, and depending on, what you want to use the bottle for. And that's really convenient, and we really like those bottles a lot. The other thing that we have is for the kids, instead of regular plastic or glass cups, we use those stainless steel cups with a silicone ring here, so it's they have a better grip on them. They also come with lids that you can use. They're silicone as well, and they actually use those cups for brushing their teeth as well as for drinking. I mean, we've obviously different ones for each of those things, but you can use them for a couple of different things. Now, our kids still go to school, they're still younger, and so they have a lunch box, and we replaced the plastic lunch boxes we had in the past with these stainless steel versions from Lunchbots is the brand that makes them, and they have different tops, different colors that you can choose from, so you can tell them apart if you have more than one kid, and they have those compartments in there. And the cool thing is we also got these little containers here. They also come with lids that I don't have here right now, but they're in the drawer. And with those little containers here, we can add sauces or berries or something that has like a liquid or is juicy, so you don't want to mix it with all the other food, and we can simply place them inside those lunch boxes here, and to give them the sauces and whatever else they might want to have. So these are just some of the examples of products that we have used. And now one thing that I want to point out is, if you have a lot of plastic containers in your home and you don't want or you can't replace everything in one shot, then turn those plastic containers around and you should see a little recycling symbol, like a triangle, with arrows. And inside of that triangle, there is usually a number. And plastic numbers range from 1 to 7. Now, the worst ones you can have are plastic number 1, number 3, number 6, and number 7. So if you have those, I highly recommend you replace them first. If you have a number 2, 4, or 5, like this one is a number 5, then those plastics are less bad. They are not great by any means, but they are less bad. So if you have to decide what to replace first, what are the lowest hanging fruits, go with number 1, 3, 6, and 7 first, and then later on replace your number 2s, 4, and 5s. Next category are kitchen utensils, and same like as with food storage containers, I recommend sticking with natural materials or silicone. So that means either stainless steel, like this ladle, I think it's from Zulai that we use, but any stainless steel ladle really will do. Stainless steel for measuring spoons or measuring cups, or if it's a measuring cup that you can pour liquids out of, maybe it might be made out of glass. Anything that we used to have as a plastic utensil, we replaced with silicone. So this is a combination of silicone with a wooden handle, just a regular wooden spoon, wooden cutting board. In fact, I think this is a bamboo cutting board that we use here. And then we also, and not at home, but when we go to restaurants, we bring these stainless steel straws. So, whenever the waiter comes and, asks if we want to have water, we say, okay, yes, please, water, but no plastic straws. So that saves the environment and our health as well. So we use the stainless steel straws that are very easy to clean. And also pastry bags. I used to use just a Ziploc bag if I needed to, pipe something, and I would just cut off the corner of the Ziploc bag. But then obviously, while the piping was going on, all the contents of the Ziploc bag were exposed to those estrogenic chemicals, and that's not a good thing. And so we replaced them with silicone versions. And that's pretty much it from a kitchen utensils perspective. I mean, we have a ton of more utensils, but the principle applies to all of them. Stainless steel, silicone, or wood are your best bets here. Next up is cookware. So my recommendation is to not use anything that's labeled as non-stick, like Teflon, for example, because all of those materials have been shown to leach chemicals into the food, in particular at high heat. I also recommend staying away from aluminum or copper for the reasons I've mentioned before. Those are neurotoxins that can leach into the food, and then you would ingest, the aluminum, for example, and you don't want to do that. So my recommendation is to stick with cast iron or stainless steel cookware. And the cast iron skillets that we use are from Smithy. They are made here in the US, they are super heavy, and food just tastes great when made in those skillets, be it eggs or something else. And the other advantage of those skillets is that you don't really have to clean them, you don't have to wash them, you just keep the grease in there in reality. That's why that looks dirty. You can obviously wipe it out if you want to, but we just keep the grease for the next time we cook. And once properly seasoned, so we bought them unseasoned from Smithy, but once properly seasoned, these are very much non-stick. Now the interesting part with cast iron cookware is that they leach iron into the food, and you might say, well, but that's just as bad as aluminum. And no, it's not, because iron is not a neurotoxin. Iron is actually one of the micronutrients that you very much need and that many Americans are deficient in. So by having a little bit of iron from those cast iron pans in your food, it's actually a good thing, believe it or not. And the other thing that we use is stainless steel cookware from a French company called Mauviel. We bought them a couple of years ago, a set of pans and pots, etc., and they work very well too. Now these you will have to clean, so you don't get the time-saving component of the cast iron, but from a toxicity perspective, stainless steel is also a great option. Next up are personal care products, and that's where it becomes a little bit complicated, because most products on the market that you find in the grocery store or online are toxic. And when we've come to that realization, it was eye-opening a little bit that most of the products we had and used were toxic, contained chemicals that would, disrupt our reproductive system, that would disrupt our metabolism and many, many other things. So it took us quite some digging and figuring out what to use and what not to use. But here are a couple of general guidelines that can help you navigate the jungle that are personal care products. And one of the first things that I recommend is to stay away from everything that contains a fragrance. And the reason for that is that manufacturers don't have to declare what chemicals they use to make that fragrance. So fragrance could mean hundreds of chemicals that are in the product that the manufacturer doesn't have to declare. And in many cases, those chemicals are endocrine disruptors, meaning they act like estrogen in your body and connect to the estrogen receptors in your cells. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to see it, almost every cell in the body has an estrogen receptor. So they can cause harm in pretty much every organ in your body. And the problem is that we use those products on a daily basis, so you expose yourself every single day. Stay away from fragrances. That's tip number one. The second is look for ingredients. Look at the ingredients label much when you go food shopping, and make sure there are no ingredients in your products that contain the words either benz, B-E-N-Z, or phen, P-H-E-N. It doesn't matter if that term or if that phrase is at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of the ingredient name. If it has it, avoid it, because those are endocrine disruptors. So that's tip number two. Also avoid hand sanitizer if it contains triclosan, or antibacterial soap. Most of those products have those chemicals that are endocrine disruptors, so you want to stay away from them. So what do we use instead? Well, we found a couple of brands for specific purposes that are non-toxic, that have no fragrance or only a fragrance from a natural source, and they tell you what it is, and they don't have any of those estrogenics. And so as far as deodorant is concerned, we found that Native is a very good brand. They have different options of their non-toxic deodorants, and the one that we chose is actually completely plastic free. So it comes in this is paper or cardboard really, and so this is a stick that you can use, and it works really well for making sure you don't smell. Now it doesn't stop you from sweating, because the only way to make you stop sweating, or one of the most popular ways I should say, is by using aluminum. And as we've learned before, that's a neurotoxin. So you still sweat with this, but you don't smell. And I'm okay with that. There are other slightly less expensive versions that come in a plastic container, but they still don't have any toxins inside. Those work as well, but we use Native exclusively. As far as toothpaste is concerned, Hello is what we use for the kids. They don't have any fluoride, because fluoride is a neurotoxin, and believe it or not, if you have a proper diet and you don't overindulge in processed carbs, then you don't need fluoride to keep cavities away from your teeth. I've not had any cavities since I started eating a ketogenic diet, meaning high fat, low carbs, and all my inflammatory markers in my gums are perfect, and I don't use any fluoride in my toothpaste, and I don't get it from drinking water either because we filter it out. For us, for the adults, basically, we use this one from Goodwill. Goodwill is also the maker of the toothbrush that we use, and so we use their fluoride-free and toxin-free toothpaste. Now, as far as soap is concerned, we typically don't use any liquid soap anymore because most of them have either fragrances or triclosan or APEs or some of the other crappy ingredients that we don't want. And so I just use this regular bar soap from Kirk's. It's fragrance free and free of anything else that you don't want to have. And one important thing that I should maybe mention at this point is, because if you think, well, even if my hand soap has some chemicals in there, it's going to wash off with the water. Well, not really, because most of those chemicals, most of those hormones are attracted to fat and not to water. And so when you wash your hands, then they stay on your skin because that's typically fatty and they don't wash off with the water. And so that's one of the reasons why even with soaps, you want to use products that don't have any of those hormones or fake hormones in them. So Kirk's is the one we use. My wife uses this shampoo and this conditioner from Plain Products. And the cool thing about Plain Products in particular is they also make sanitizer that we use, by the way, that's free of triclosan. They come in a metal bottle here, it's not plastic, and it's reusable. So once we are done, we can send those bottles, the empty bottles, back, and we get new ones. So again, saves the planet and is good for our health. As far as flossing is concerned, we use this natural product. It actually comes in a little glass container here, and this the actual string is completely non-toxic as well. It's not as tear resistant as some of the plastic flosses that you might be used to, so it tears more often, but that's also something that I'm okay with, knowing that I'm not gonna get any chemicals into my mouth. The gel from Organic Sprout is the one that I use. We also use other hair products from them for the kids to detangle their hair and stuff. They make very good non-toxic options. And then the sunscreen, we have different versions of this from Babo Botanicals. They have a stick for the kids. They have this one for, I think it's a face one, and then they have other ones that are fragrance free, free of BP, especially oxybenzone, free of 4-MBC and some of the other chemicals that you would typically find in most sunscreens and even in some of the mineral-based ones. So this is a very good brand that I can highly recommend. Again, some of the products, if you want to see what else we use, check out michaelkummer.com/shop. Quick follow-up note on fragrances, because you find obviously fragrances in air fresheners and in candles and in dryer sheets and in washing detergents, and those two I recommend you stay away from. In particular, scented candles are no good because they're always stuffed with those estrogenics that then get into the air, you inhale them, and through that they get into your bloodstream. The only type of candle that I recommend you use is made from beeswax, and I don't have any right now because we are beekeepers ourselves, so we're second-year beekeepers, so we haven't harvested any wax yet. It's going to be later this year, hopefully in spring, and so we'll be making our own candles, and so we decided not to buy any in the meantime. But if you want to buy candles, make sure they are made with beeswax. I know they are more expensive, but that's typically how it works. All the good stuff and healthy stuff is more expensive than the crappy stuff. And if you use any scents, make sure it's only from essential oils or something natural. And stay away from lavender. I know lavender is a very popular fragrance and scent, in particular in the realm of essential oils, but lavender just unfortunately happens to be highly estrogenic. And so you want to also stay away from lavender, even though it's entirely natural, obviously, and it smells good and many people like it, but again, it's highly estrogenic. Next up is bedding and clothing, because these two are often made from plastics or from materials that contain estrogenics. And so we try to stick with natural fibers where possible, in particular for undergarments. So, all the underwear we buy for the kids is 100% cotton. I try to buy any shirts that I have and pullovers made from, either wool or cotton or something organic and natural fiber basically instead of synthetic. That's not possible in all cases. Like some of our workout shirts are still synthetic and have, like stretchy materials and moisture weakening materials. And I don't know in all of those cases if they are safe or not, but you kind of have to find a balance that works for you. The other thing is bedding, obviously. If anything that like sheets that go directly on your skin, you want to make sure they are 100% cotton or another natural fiber and not something synthetic, because that usually too means there are chemicals in there that can leach through your skin into your bloodstream, and you want to avoid that. The last product category are small kitchen appliances, including coffee makers. You can see here the water tank of ours, maybe a yogurt maker, and this is the food basket of our air fryer. And the reason why I use these three examples is because they're very often made with materials, either plastic or non-stick coatings, that have the chemicals that I've mentioned previously that can leach then into the water, the coffee, or the food. And so I want to show you and mention three products that don't have any of those chemicals. And starting with our yogurt maker, we use one from Bear. And the reason why we bought this particular one is because it's made out of stainless steel on the inside here, as you can see. And the container that contains the yogurt, and we make coconut milk based yogurt with this, is made out of glass. The lid that goes on top of the container here and also this one is in fact plastic, but it doesn't come in contact with the food. And so that's why it's perfectly safe. So it's glass and stainless steel in the areas where it matters, and plastic in areas where there is no direct contact with the food. So Bear is the yogurt maker that we use and really like, specifically because of the glass. The other thing that I want to mention is our coffee maker. It's from a Swiss brand called Jura. And it's an automatic espresso machine. And when we first learned about estrogenics and the health impact of those chemicals, I got pretty bummed out because that Jura machine was fairly expensive. And I thought, now we can't use it anymore to make coffee. But the good news is, in fact, when I looked at the recycling symbol here on the bottom, it didn't show a number. So I reached out to Jura and asked them, what type of plastic are you using for the water tank as well as for some of the other components that come in contact with the coffee? And they said they use ABS plastic. And I didn't know about ABS plastic, and I couldn't find any information online whether or not it's estrogenic. And so I reached out to Dr. Anthony J, who I'm going to introduce you here in a little bit, and in particular his book, and he confirmed that ABS plastic does not have any estrogenic properties, which was good news because that means we could continue using our coffee maker without exposing ourselves to those environmental toxins. The other thing, the basket of our air fryer, that's made from a non-stick coating, similar to Teflon, but it's a water-based coating that studies have shown does not have any estrogenic properties. And this particular model is from Kaiwol AF60 air fryer. I have a dedicated review on my blog if you're interested, but the bottom line here is the coating is completely non-toxic and does not leach any chemicals into the food. And so good news, we could continue using it. We still can use our coffee maker, and we definitely like our yogurt maker because it's, again, non-toxic. So that leads us to an important topic, and that is, what can you do to reduce your exposure to those xenoestrogens or estrogenic? And one of the most important lessons that we've learned is not to freak out. When we first learned about estrogenics and discovered how much exposure we really have due to the household items, skincare products, food storage containers, etc., that we've been using, we freaked out a little bit, I gotta be honest. And so don't freak out, because you can't really avoid your exposure. Scientists have found estrogenics in polar bears, and if a polar bear cannot avoid being exposed, then you and I certainly can't either. The goal is to reduce your exposure, and in some cases that might mean reducing your exposure dramatically by going after the lowest hanging fruits first. So like filter your drinking water. A simple charcoal filter removes those hormones, those estrogens, and makes the water much healthier. So that's a very low-hanging fruit. The second one is, look around how much plastic you have in your environment and decide what you can part with and what you can replace with products made out of glass, stainless steel, silicone, wood, or what have you. And as far as food storage is concerned, most of our food storage containers used to be plastic, and that was quite frankly quite a big investment to replace all of that in the pantry and for the fridge storage and whatnot. But my recommendation is look at the plastic numbers on the bottom of those products and start replacing the ones that have a 1, a 3, a 6 or a 7 first, and then replace the 2s, the 4s and the 5s later because they are less bad. You should also know that foods that are stored in the fridge or under room temperature are less likely to absorb some of those chemicals. So that means for anything that's in the freezer in particular, and to a degree stuff that's in the fridge, your risk is lower. And the risk for dry products like flours, etc., that you might have in your pantry is lower as well. So liquids are more likely to absorb those estrogenics than dry foods. Fatty foods and acidic foods and stuff are also more likely to leach chemicals from their containers. So look around and see what makes most sense to replace first. And don't go nuts and think like you have to replace everything in one shot. In fact, as far as skincare products are concerned, my wife used the strategy of replacing products that she ran out of. I took a little bit of more of a drastic approach by simply throwing everything I had or most of it in the trash and buying new stuff from the get-go. But you don't have to be as drastic. You can do it as you run out of products, because chances are you've been exposed already for so many years, a couple of extra weeks are probably not going to make a huge difference. The other thing, not product related at all, but more generally, is try to avoid your consumption of grains, of certain legumes, of soy and soy byproducts, of flaxseed, of lavender, because all of these are either inherently estrogenic because they have phytoestrogens, plant-based estrogens like soy and flaxseed in particular, but also lavender. Others like grains and in particular corn are exposed to mold when they are stored, typically in large storage containers before they get shipped out and distributed, and that mold is also estrogenic, and there is nothing really manufacturers can do to prevent that mold. It's on peanuts, it's on all kinds of grains, but in particular corn, so try to reduce your consumption and exposure to those as well. Just generally try to remove as much plastic as you can from your environment. It's good for the planet and it's good for your health. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that you're likely not gonna see positive results by reducing your exposure to estrogenics immediately, and that's because those chemicals compound over time and cause harm over long periods. If you eat spoiled food, you notice the results typically within a couple of hours or maybe even immediately. With estrogenics, that's not necessarily the case. It might take months, years, decades, or even generations to figure out or to realize what harm they have done. There are certain estrogenics that can cause harm to 3 generations down the line. So if you expose yourself to certain endocrine-disrupting hormones, then the kids of your kids can pay the consequences by having either low sperm quality, reproductive issues, by especially if they are boys, like have feminine characteristics, etc. So there are a lot of, it's more of a long-term approach is what I'm trying to say, but know that whatever you do today is not only make you healthier, but also the generations down the line. That leads us to the last part of this video, and that is additional resources. Where can you find more information? Well, I wrote a very in-depth blog post about the specific estrogenics that I've mentioned throughout this video and that are contained in some of the products or that we used before. So check out that blog post if you want to find out more about what is BP, why is it bad, what is BPS and BPA and what's the difference, etc. All of that is mentioned in my blog post. I can also highly recommend this book from Dr. Anthony Che. It's called Estrogeneration. That was really the eye opener for us. When we first read that book, it was like, wow, what have we been doing so far? So highly recommended. You can find it on Amazon or anywhere else where they sell books. I'm going to link it down below as well. And then there is an app that I can recommend, and it's called Think Dirty. It's available for iOS and probably for Android as well. And it's basically a database of products that you can look up, either by scanning the barcode of a specific product or typing in the name or a product category, and it tells you if that product is toxic and to what degree. So there's a ranking from 1 to 10, 10 being the worst. 0, I think 0 is actually the best score, or 1 is the best score, are the least toxic ones. So you can check out your own products, the ones you already have, or if you want to shop for new products, you can use that as well as a reference. And then, as I've mentioned before, michaelkrumer.com/shop has all the products that we currently use, that we've researched and that we find to be the least toxic for our kids and for us. And with that said, thank you very much for sticking with me. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, this button seems to be working as well, but let me know in the comments what I could have done better, and I'll see you next time.